That's good.
I recently went on a trip to Utah and I was able to visit all 5 national parks in the state in one trip, and it was awesome to say the least. But after seeing some of these places, something really dawned on me. We rented e-bikes to ride through Zion National Park, and being a mountain biker, you already know seeing all this beautiful landscape gives you a lot of ideas. But this particular situation made me realize how nobody talks about this and how lucky we actually are to have mountain bikes. Mountain bikes are typically focused on innovation and performance, but as you probably know, that's the last thing I'm worried about when it comes to mountain bikes, which probably explains why this particular thought came to mind.
This hike up to Delicate Arch is not as easy as I thought. It's flat for the most part. And then once you get halfway there, you have to go straight up this steep hill. So let me show you that. All right, so this might not do it justice, but if you can see him up there, you can kind of tell how steep it is. And that's just the start of it.
Now, if you're anything like me, hiking is probably not your favorite thing to do, but it's the only way you can access a lot of these amazing views and landmarks, and that's what actually sparked this realization for me about mountain bikes. Mountain bikes are promoted so heavily around how they perform and how fast you can ride the trails, but have you ever realized that mountain bikes are basically the only bikes that can access these kinds of trails and scenery? Bike-friendly trails, of course. When I fell in love with mountain biking, it wasn't just mountain biking. I also fell in love with the outdoors and how mountain bikes give you access to so many beautiful places. This is a huge advantage that mountain bikes have over every other kind of bike. No other bike allows you to climb rugged mountain terrain, then ride down, while also being able to ride any and all other types of scenarios. A lot of people get the wrong impression thinking I hate highly capable bikes. What they don't realize is that we are looking at mountain biking in two completely different ways. Gone are the days of me looking for the most technical and gnarly trails I can find. Instead, I'm looking for that feeling mountain bikes give that I want everyone else to experience. The feeling of life, being out on the trails, being able to soak it all in and just clear your mind and appreciate what really matters in life. And that's why I love rigid bikes and hardtails, because they allow you to slow down on the trails and you notice a lot of stuff that you wouldn't otherwise notice if you were just flying through the trails. There's been this saying about mountain biking lately that it's hit a plateau, and that could be said about a lot of other things as well, but I feel this is the perfect opportunity to start selling the experience over the performance. Mountain biking has changed my life in ways I can't even put into words, and none of it had to do with how well the suspension performed or how lightweight my bike is. As a matter of fact, I honestly couldn't tell you how much any of my bikes weigh, nor do I care.
I'm not sure if you saw that rider right there, and no hate on my riders. I love all my riders, but that explains exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to this full suspension stuff. All these bikes are just so much alike. This line that they chose to go around, if you're on a full suspension bike, you probably won't even feel this, but they chose to go around it. Now I'm thinking to myself, I'm on a rigid bike, and I would not even think about avoiding that obstacle right there. I would just go straight through it, even on a rigid bike, but they went around it on a full suspension bike. That's what I'm talking about. It's a lot of people out here that just get full suspension bikes just because they think that that's what they should get. And I'm here to tell you, you do not need a full suspension bike. The only time I really ride a full suspension bike is when I absolutely have to. I do live in Colorado where it's super chunky, so it's some places where if you don't ride a full suspension bike, it's gonna be a rough day for you. So I get it on those situations, but when you're on a full suspension bike and you avoiding super small obstacles, it just makes no sense to me. Now, I don't want to sound like I'm bashing them or whatever, but that was just a prime example of what I'm talking about. Now, somebody came to me and they wanted to try some of my bikes out because they were looking to get their first mountain bike. And it really brought to my attention how intimidating mountain biking is, even not even being on the trail. Just how intimidating the bike itself is. They got on the full suspension bike and they didn't even know what this stuff was or that stuff was. I'm not on a full suspension bike now, but they didn't know what that stuff was. It felt overwhelming. Then I put them on the Trek Roscoe 9 and they didn't like how beefy it looked up front. The bike just looked massive up front and it just looked like it was a lot to handle. And I said, you know what, let me try to put you on this short travel cross country bike, hardtail. They got on that bike and they felt super comfortable. So I do think we underestimate a lot of beginners as well with just the bike alone. They think they're innovating these bikes, but they're just making it more scarier for a lot of people, in my opinion, because half of these or most of these people don't know what the stuff means, and they get intimidating with just the bike, let alone actually getting on the trail. Now, let me remind you, they were on a full suspension bike. They went around this. So instead of going straight over right here, they took this smooth route right here, which I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but on a full suspension bike, it just makes me wonder why people even have these bikes. Now, like I said, I'm not trying to bash nobody. I'm just trying to tell you that this is most riders. That's most riders. They would go around that, which is why I don't understand who are they trying to sell these bikes to. Are they just trying to sell to existing mountain bikers or the diehards? Because you ain't gonna ever get nobody new into the sport trying to sell all that stuff. Look at this, watch this. This is what they went around. I'm on a rigid bike. That was it. And that's what I'm saying. I think they underestimate how intimidating this is for the average rider, which makes no sense why they promote all these new crazy bikes. I just don't get it. And it's kind of like making mountain biking not as fun to me. Like this is a cool bike. I like cool and unique bikes. All these full suspensions they're coming out with are just identical, in my opinion. Now I get it, some people want a nice bike that they could grow into so they don't have to buy another one. But this bike had a nice coil spring shock on it, not sure what it was, but they had a gold Fox factory fork and they avoided that little obstacle. I'm just thinking in my head, come on, what are we doing? That bike costs so much money, I bet, and they don't even want to tackle the smallest obstacles. Now I get it, they might not be on that level, but like, how many people are buying those bikes that want to start at a beginner level? I think logically, and that logically just makes no sense to be pushing those kinds of bikes on beginners. Now, I don't know how they got that bike or where they got it from, but if I'm working in a bike shop or somebody comes to me and asks me if they should get this bike and they just starting out, I would hell no. I would never, ever suggest that. Even if they wanted it, they'd be like, oh, I want this bike. I'm like, I mean, you could go buy it with your own money, but I'm not gonna sell it to you, and I'm not gonna be the one to tell you to go get it. So you could go get it, but I'm not gonna tell you to get it. I wouldn't ever let somebody spend that kind of money that's a beginner, even if they have the money and want to buy the bike, because it makes me feel like I'm disrespecting the sport a little bit. It's like, why would I advise them to get something like that when that's totally not even necessary, and that's not even what mountain biking is all about?